What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to TTB Ravens Media, bringing you Ravens content every single day. If you want to see that daily Ravens content, please make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. And Joshua and I will be recording our Trust the Bank podcast episode, really recapping the full draft and doing everything like that. That'll be out over the next couple of days on the YouTube channel, but the podcast will be posted tonight. So if you want to check that out, I'll probably tweet about it. Follow the Twitter, there you go. But right now, I'm going over the undrafted free agent players that so far have agreed to deals with the Ravens. Nothing's been signed yet, nothing put in paper, but, they've agreed to the deal. It's very rare where, an undrafted player will just, decommit from the deal because they get that opportunity and they go. But, speaking of undrafted, undraftedsports.com, go check it out. If you're interested in writing and things like that, comment it down below. I can send you in the right place. But the Ravens love to put undrafted players on their roster. It's something that it's really a tradition in Baltimore. It's happened a couple of times, really, only where the Ravens have not added a new undrafted player to the 53-man roster. So there's a good chance at least one of these guys does end up making the team, even though we do have a very good team. I will say these players, I'm rooting for all of them. So do not take my analysis, my statements about them as me being oh no, I don't want this guy. I want all of these guys to succeed. I would love for them to make the team. So these are just my honest opinions on, odds and things like that they do end up making the team. So I'm rooting for them. So we'll start with that, but I'll start off with two guys that I found the most difficult to find information about, which I feel like is more helpful to all of you because it's easier to get information about, the big names, particularly guys like Arterius Washington. So I got two guys before that, then I'll get into kind of the bigger name guys that y'all probably have heard about, but still may want some more information about. But first off, I'll go with the guy that is very, very difficult to find any information about, and that's Dante. I think it's pronounced Silencio or Silencio or something like that. I'm going to say Silencio. I don't know. Maybe I'm pronouncing it wrong, which obviously is Spanish for be quiet. But, it's not spelled like that. But he's a wide receiver from Graceland. He's 6'2", 185 pounds. There's really no scouting report that you can find on him. So I, had to do my own scouting report, which, was very intriguing. So I was not able to really compare with any notes that I could find because there weren't any online, which I thought was very interesting. So the Ravens, all of a sudden, they go after this guy within, 24 hours of the draft. Maybe they're onto something. But from what I've seen, basically, he's got very good jump ball skills. He's able to high point the football, go up and make a lot of spectacular catches. I believe his nickname was Baby Moss. Not 1,000,000% certain about that. Like I said, there's very little information that I could find about him, but I believe his nickname was Baby Moss. So he, when you get a nickname like that, it's because you're making highlight reel catches all the time. And I was able to find some of those plays, and they were really, really, really good. Multiple people on him or one guy on him, but obviously the competition he's playing against, not very high. How many of you have heard of Graceland? Very, very few, I presume. In 2019, he did actually have a 238-yard, 3-touchdown game, which, shows that he was able to at least ball out against that lower competition. That year, 724 total yards, 9 touchdowns. But he did have 19.1 yards per catch. So like I was bringing up, makes those contested catches. He makes big plays for the offense. So that's something that's very interesting. But the most intriguing part was I did see, I believe in 2018, he had a kickoff return for a touchdown. So bringing him in potentially could be as a return man. That's by far the best chance he has to make the team would be as a return man because we got a lot of wide receivers. So the odds that he makes as a wide receiver is pretty low. But as a special teams player, if he's able to show out and do that, obviously he has experience. He's done it before. I don't know how common he did it. Like I said, there's very, very little information that I could find about him. But he did have, that kickoff return touchdown. So, potentially as a special teamer, but the Ravens got a guy that, very, very few people really had. And so there is a chance. And as a special teamer, he could do it, but also he could be a developmental player, guy that the Ravens have on the practice squad or something like that. But Dante Silencio, very, very intriguing guy. My favorite guy is Nate McCarry, okay? 6 foot, 213-pound running back out of Saginaw Valley State. So what I watched from him, he's got incredible cutback ability. His jump cuts, very, very good. He hits the hole with great speed. Obviously, another guy where he's playing against pretty low-end competition. I mean, you're watching the film and it looks like you're watching high school football in terms of the stadium that they're playing in terms of the camera quality, like that type of – it's that level of football right there. But that's not to say that it doesn't mean he couldn't be very good. He had 28 rushing touchdowns in only 33 career games. And he was somebody that I just really liked in the open space. He made up his mind. He tried to finish with contact. Wasn't like overly assertive going down, but a lot of times it was, 2, 3, 4 guys having to, drag him and pull him back down. Doesn't finish with a ton of power, but overall, I liked his top end speed. He broke a lot of big runs back at Saginaw Valley State. So I think he could be an intriguing player. I mean, heck, the Ravens' current second best running back on the roster was an undrafted player in Gus Edwards. So I think, midway through the season, he could get a shot. I don't think he makes the roster right away, just as we do have Justice Hill, but we kept 4 running backs last year. So there is a decent chance that he does end up playing for the Ravens at some point or getting on the roster if there's ever a running back injury. But right away, I don't see him like immediately making the team, but he could be a guy to keep out for. Nate McCarry. I would look up his, kind of some of his film. It's pretty limited, not nearly as limited as Dante Silencio, but Nate McCarry, I do really like him. But those are the two like way more difficult to find guys or information about them. So now let's get into the big name everybody's talking about him, Arterius Washington, safety out of TCU. He's 5'8", 176 pounds. That is the only reason why he went undrafted. That's probably the only reason he wasn't like a top 3 round pick, if we're being honest. This guy is very, very good at football. Great ball skills, very good instincts, turnover machine. He forced 5 interceptions in 2019, led his team. And who was on his team? What safety prospect? Oh, yeah, Trayvon Moehrig, the best safety prospect, in my opinion, in the NFL draft last year. And he went alongside him. They were the best safety duo probably in college football. He was 7th in the FBS in turnovers that year. And I was reading up about him, and there's something where, potentially I have read that, maybe he switches to nickel or something like that. So that means another guy that the Ravens have brought in. We look at Brandon and we look at Sean, and now we have Arterius. Guys that could potentially all be playing, mixed around, all guys with good ball skills. So, I think it's a very interesting prospect. The size is slightly concerning still, just because at the safety position, when you don't have like crazy top end speed, having that length does help you to get back and swap passes. But he does just have very good reactions and instincts and things like that, where he's still able to make plays on the football. So I think he probably will end up making the team, just because we don't have really a free safety even on the roster. Yeah, we drafted some guys that could eventually play free safety, Sean Wade and Brandon Stevens, but not 100% positive that they'd really even be like very good at it. So at least we'll get a free safety that could come out, drive the football, hit hard, and, make plays. We need to force picks. We get a lot of fumbles, but come on, we got to make quarterbacks that make bad passes, guys that are gunslingers, throw interceptions, because we go up against a fair amount of gunslingers like Josh Allen, like Patrick Mahomes. Make them make mistakes. So I think he plays Ravens football. I think there's a very good chance he does make the team. The Ravens even offered him a very big undrafted free agent contract. So keep your eye on Arterius Washington. Next guy is Sam Cooper, guard out of Merrimack College. He's 6'2", 305 pounds. Small school, so that kind of idea. Another small school guy, really. So weak competition, is that kind of a concern? He played left guard his entire career. So that kind of puts him at a disadvantage if he's trying to make the 53-man roster, because we got all the Bens, and Brandon, or Bradley Bozeman. So, and I think Bradley Bozeman will end up switching to center, but still we got a lot of guards on this roster. So I will say I don't think that he's going to be making the team, but could be a good player to have on the practice squad. You never know with the smaller school guys, especially the offensive line. It's just very difficult to tell. And obviously I'm not somebody I've never claimed this before. I'm not an offensive line scout. I don't know a ton of stuff about the offensive line, but From what I saw, like, I don't think that he'll be making the roster, but could be a guy for the practice squad to be solid. Next player, Tony, I believe it's Polian, but maybe it's Poljan. I'm going to say Polian, tight end out of Virginia, 6'7", incredible size, 251 pounds. Issue with him, he's not a great route runner, but he can like catch the football. He was a former quarterback. But, you know, at his size, he actually is a competent blocker, and he's kind of willing to do that. It's just, you know, how well can he develop as a route runner? Because the Ravens really need that kind of well-balanced player. The Ravens brought in Josh Oliver this offseason. We brought in Ben Mason in the draft. So, you know, the Ravens are looking to add that third tight end. So he will have a chance to compete. We also have some undrafted players from last year that could fight for the spot, but like he'll have a chance to compete for the position at tight end. Do I think he'll get it? Probably not. But as a practice squad player, you know, as a former quarterback, Ravens love to develop tight ends. I think it could be very possible for him to still at least be on the practice squad, really like honing his craft and becoming a better tight end. Next player is Adrian Ely. Offensive tackle out of Oklahoma, 6'6", 321 pounds. He was the replacement for Orlando Brown Jr. in college. Could he be the replacement in the NFL? Honestly, possibly. Right tackle is a place where we are, you know, still searching for who will be the guy. There will be a positional battle. Tyree Phillips is going to be competing for it. And then obviously we could still potentially sign Alejandro Villanueva or somebody like that. But I think he'll have a chance to compete for the job. Whether or not he'll get it, I don't know. He's very unathletic, kind of similar to Orlando Brown Jr., but he's pretty technically sound. The coaches speak very highly of him in terms of coachability. So could be a guy that, you know, another practice squad guy. I don't think he'll make the roster unless he really shows out. But, you know, if there's an injury or something, hopefully not at the right tackle spot, potentially bringing him up. Could be something that eventually happens, but intriguing prospect out of Oklahoma. Next guy is Xavier Kelly, defensive tackle out of Arkansas. I really don't think he'll make the roster. I'm sorry. He's a long-term developmental player, could become a 3-tech, but looking at what the Ravens have, I mean, we already have a full defensive line in terms of players that we have. And we do not want to add a 53-man roster player that is just not ready to play in the NFL. Even scouting things said, like, you know, likely could have to go play in, you know, other leagues before going to the NFL. So could potentially be a guy that even goes to the CFL. But, you know, maybe they have him on the practice squad. They work with him. They get it better. And he's able to come in. But, yeah, I'm not having very high hopes for Xavier Kelly. Obviously, I do hope all of these guys, you know, succeed and things like that. Remember, like I said at the beginning of the video, but that's just kind of my assessment. Next guy is Foster Sorrell, right tackle out of Stanford, 6'7", 315 pounds. We got my Stanford guy. Wasn't Sibi Fehoko, wasn't Walker Little, wasn't Paulson Adebo, but we got a Stanford guy. He played right tackle for Stanford his entire career, so he does have experience there. Stanford does produce pro-ready offensive linemen. That's really what Coach David Shaw, you know, really works on. You look at previous offensive linemen, Andreas Pete have come in, plenty of guys that have come out of Stanford and played on the offensive line. So he could be a guy that could definitely compete for the right tackle spot, you know, even alongside Adrian Ely. So, you know, he could be a guy that makes the roster, very good size. So he'll have a chance to compete. Whether or not he gets it, it really depends, I think, on if we sign Alejandro Villanueva. Or the Titans offensive tackle, who I still refuse to learn the name of because, well, he's a Titan and I don't care for him. Even though I know Villanueva as a Steeler, I don't know. I dislike the Titans more than I dislike the Steelers. But final player right here. Sorry for the longer video, but, you know, I had to go over all the guys. I've got Blake Gallagher, linebacker out of Northwestern, 6 feet tall, 224 pounds. He is a tackling machine. Okay, he can lay the wood, big hits. The issue is like he's pretty darn slow. I see him as like an old school linebacker. Does that still fit in the NFL? Unfortunately, I would say no, like just because of the speed and the tight ends that we have to go against. Guys like Darren Waller, guys like Mark Andrews, guys like you know, Travis Kelce, he would not be able to cover. Then So having him on the Ravens, where, Wink Martindale obviously loves to put people in peculiar situations, I don't think that he's a very good fit for Baltimore. Obviously, hoping for him to succeed, but like at that speed is very slow. I think it was like 4.8 speed or maybe even 4.9. It was very slow. That's a major concern for me. So for me, I don't think he'll really make the roster. Maybe a practice squad guy, but that's it for all the players. Again, y'all should try and find some stuff about Dante Silencio and Nate McCarry, because obviously I think people were very just excited about Arterius Washington. But let me know down in the comment section down below who you think will make the team, who you want to make the team, who your favorite undrafted player is, maybe outside of Arterius Washington, because it'll be very interesting. But thank you all for watching. Subscribe for daily Ravens content. Turn on the notification bell to get notified when I publish new videos. But I'll see all of you again tomorrow.